NASCAR season has been a dash for cash for Bill Elliott. Everyone knows of his potential Winston million, but he's won so often he stands on the threshold of earning a separate million in race winnings alone. 2 weeks ago found Elliott taking more strides forward. During the MIS race, he ventures where no other driver dares. And when it comes time for lap 100, the Barclays run for the money. He simply punched the button. Then later, winning, as usual, was easy. Now it's on to Bristol, Tennessee, a high-speed short track, and it looms as the potential great equalizer. Factors like this: when the leader spins, fate makes its own selections. Often half miles make this a contact sport and seem to favor the knowledge of veteran teams. And like in April, when Dale Earnhardt won it, it also requires one tough customer to earn victory lane. Still, Bill's primary points adversary is Darrell Waltrip, who historically dominates these types of tracks. Bristol, Tennessee. We are in the mountains and the foothills of northern Tennessee, and this is the Bristol International Raceway, and we are here for live prime-time Grand National stock car competition from Tennessee. The temperature is about 60 degrees, the wind's almost nil, chance of nighttime only 10%, the humidity 75%, and that's probably a modest estimate, in the skies without a doubt are overcast. But as we told you, they've had the wreckers and the privately owned vehicles on the racetrack, and the track itself is dry right now, and it looks like we'll be able to start pretty much on time. Here is the starting lineup for tonight's Busch 500, a Winston Cup race from the Bristol International Raceway in Bristol, Tennessee. On the pole with a brand new track record, the Wrangler Jeans Goodwrench Chevrolet Dale Earnhardt. He qualified at a speed of above 113.5 miles an hour. On the outside, the Ohio native Tim Richmond. He came in at better than 113 miles an hour also. Row 2 on the inside, Jeff Bodine, hometown in New York. And on the outside, Neil Bonnet, the southerner from Bessemer, Alabama, in the Budweiser Chevrolet. In row number 3, the New York native who won an important race in 1985, Greg Saxely, on the inside. And on the outside, in the Motocraft Ford, Ricky Rudd from Chesapeake, Virginia. In row number 4, the quiet Texan, Terry Labonte, on the inside, in the Piedmont Airlines Chevrolet, and Phil Parsons, a surprise in 8th qualifying position. Row number 5, Bill Elliott, the man who has dominated this season, alongside Darrell Waltrip, the points adversaries. In row number 6, the 11th and 12th positions, Tommy Ellis, somewhat of a surprise, qualifying this well in Grand National cars, and Ron Bouchard involved in a spectacular crash last night. Row number 7, Buddy Baker from Charlotte, North Carolina, and on the outside, another man involved in that big crash in the front stretch, Joe Ruttman. Row 8, Harry Gant and Bobby Allison, two of the veterans of this type of racing. In row number 9, two of the younger drivers who are beginning to make their voices heard, Kyle Petty on the inside in the 711 Ford, and Lake Speed in the Nationwide Auto Parts Pontiac. Row number 10, a man who performed well last night, Dave Marcus. He now lives in Schuyler, North Carolina, and on the outside, Mike Alexander from across the street. Row 11, Rusty Wallace, the Midwest driver, and on the outside, a dirt track convert, Ken Schrader. In row number 12, Ronnie Thomas from nearby Christiansburg, Virginia, and the King, Richard Petty. In row 13, another Texan, Bobby Hillen Jr., one of the younger drivers on the trail, and Eddie Birchwell, a rookie, on the outside. In row 14, Mike Potter and Trevor Boyes. Row 15, Clark Dwyer and Buddy Arrington. And all alone in row 16, added as promoter's option, Jimmy Means.
As I mentioned a moment ago, Bill Elliott has just simply dominated for the last 3 or 4 months. If Dale Earnhardt or Tim Richmond or Neil Bonnet or any of the rest of them have the opportunity to stay in front of Bill Elliott and make him look bad, they're going to try to do that. As a matter of fact, we're hooked up with Tim Richmond, and why don't we try to get his thoughts as he's underway. Tim Richmond, this is Benny Parsons in ESPN. Do you read me? Tim, why don't you try that one more time, because you were cut out. Tim, we're having some problems. We'll work on it. We'll get back with you. Let's try Jeff. Let's try Jeff.
While Benny is working on getting a hold of Jeff, we can tell you that they're going to run at least 4 laps under this slowed caution flag condition. The traditional 2 pace laps, and maybe 2, the race will officially start, but under a yellow flag. Benny?
Yes, we're going to try Jeff Bodine. Jeff Bodine, this is Benny Parsons in ESPN. Do you read us?
I read you loud and clear.
Yes, Jeff, what does the racetrack look like from inside the race car?
Well, Benny, it's wet coming off the second corner where all the traffic is going across the racetrack. It's pretty wet right there, and it's going to take a little while for that to dry up. It's a little wet coming off of turn 4. The rest of the track looks great.
How is the car? Were you able to practice this morning before the rain?
Yeah, we got out and did quite a bit of practice. We made quite a few changes. You know, in this business, you do a lot of guesswork and just take a lucky shot at it. We hope we have the right setup. It felt good in the last practice.
Did the NASCAR officials say anything about pit road during your driver's meeting?
Well, you know, they said to be awful careful, and of course we know that. It's wet. It's going to take a while for that to dry out, so we're going to have to be awful careful entering and exiting the pits. Hopefully before the night's out, it will dry out.
Well, Jeff, we're going to let you concentrate on racing. There's a couple more laps before the green flag. Be careful and have a good night.
Now, just a couple of points. Sorry, Jeff. Just a couple of points. Pit road is very wet. It's not just damp. There are still puddles of water right there, particularly in the back pits. But both the front pits and the back pits, we need both of them here at this racetrack because it's only a half-mile in length. Now, there are the puddles we are talking about. You can see it's not just damp. The conditions down there got to be classified as unsafe. Now, we're going to go 500 laps. This is only a half-mile racetrack. And if you've never seen Grand National cars or really professional stock cars on a half-mile racetrack, pay attention. It happens real quick.
They really get it done here. The average speed that Dale Earnhardt qualified last night was over 113 miles per hour. Now, that's an average for all the way around the racetrack. He probably was traveling somewhere around 130 to 140 miles per hour at the end of each straightaway. And that is really quick, particularly when you almost have to make a 180-degree turn and go back the other way.
The course here, as we told you, it's basically a half mile, although just maybe a few feet on a centimeter scale. It's bigger than a half mile, 0.533 to be exact. You can see the straightaways are 800. The turns are 600 feet in length. The banking here, that's the big story. 36 degrees. It's a very symmetrical racetrack, but it is very, very fast. A couple other points to keep in mind. The winner of last night's late model sportsman race seen live here on ESPN was Jeff Bodine's brother, Brett. He would certainly like to emulate that. You can get about 160, 170 laps of race. And by the way, you see the green flag is out. This race is officially underway. We will run the first couple of laps under a yellow flag condition, but we are officially now started. You can get about 160, 170 points for winning a race. Now, there are several nuances, and maybe we'll get into that a little later. But just to give you an idea, Waltrip is 143 behind Elliott. Neil Bonnet is 286 behind in third spot. Harry Gant is 331. Jeff Bodine is 352. And Kyle Petty in sixth is 386. So mathematically speaking at this point, those are the only six guys it looks like they have a chance. Jack Arute.
Reasons why the drivers have started this race under the caution and the green flag at the same time, slower speed, are because of these tires. You see there's no tread on them. Now under dry conditions, that makes for good adhesion to the road, but there are no grooves like we're used to on our tires to channel the water up away from the racetrack and provide sufficient adhesion. So until the track is sufficiently dry, they'll have to run under slower speeds.
And that's exactly why the cars have to be so careful entering and exiting the pits, because those tires with no tread just does not push the water out. It gets on top of the water, hydroplanes, and these cars become uncontrollable.
Oh, the NASCAR radios are abuzz right now as all the officials positioned around the racetrack are trying to ask the drivers and communicate with hand signals, hey, how is the track, what's going on? They're asking all their officials to inspect the speedway as these cars motor around. I keep seeing Earnhardt moving up alongside of the pace car, Benny, and I think there's some communication going on there.
Well, he's probably telling what he thinks, and he certainly doesn't think that he can tell his crew and they relay the information along to NASCAR. He thinks he's going straight to the people, and that is the pace car driver.
Dale Earnhardt qualified at the pole here, 113.5 miles an hour. Earnhardt speeds up alongside the pace car, once again trying to communicate something. Tim Richmond sitting on the outside. Richmond's been very fast in all kinds of racetracks recently. There is Ron Bouchard. He's got to have some butterflies in the stomach. Now, he's a professional race driver, but last night he had a thrilling, a frightening crash here on the front stretch. He has qualified on the outside of Tommy Ellis, a late model sportsman regular. Tommy in that dark blue car you see there. But for Bouchard last night, it had to be a night of restless sleep, Benny.
Well, I think it was, because he had a very good race car, was leading the race, and just tore it all to pieces. He does not have a race car right now. Unless he has a spare, he will be unable to run in Darlington next week.
Well, there's Tommy Ellis with a brand new paint job. Late model sportsman regular who has scratched and clawed for years trying to get a Grand National ride, and it looks like it's finally happened. They're selecting races this year, but next year they're going to concentrate on the series. Jack Arute with the comment. Jack?
Gentlemen, Gentlemen, you were talking about the Dale Earnhardt car moving up to the pace car off and on. Well, Richard Childress is in communication with NASCAR officials, and he's telling them what Earnhardt's relaying as far as the track conditions. It's Earnhardt's recommendation, however, to move and speed up to keep the engine hot. That word came from Richard Childress's car owner. He says, keep the heat in the car. Just speed up and slow down. We don't want to have a problem and maybe foul the plug during these caution periods.
The signal from NASCAR, 1 lap to go. The next time by, the green flag will be thrown. We have completed 5 laps. On the 6th lap, we'll get a green flag. This race will be underway.
Now, allegedly, it's everybody's job to follow the lead set up by the pole setter, Dale Earnhardt. It's Tim Richmond's job to bring the outside row around. He may have the advantage in a high-banked racetrack at the start, but Earnhardt can determine exactly how fast or how slow he wants to start this race. Richmond is supposed to keep up. It doesn't happen all that often that there's a false start in Grand National Racing, but it is possible. Let's watch this carefully now. The pace car looking towards pit road. It darts down. It looks like the field is under control of Dale Earnhardt. Harold Kinder lifts the field over. The green flag is out. Earnhardt has the initial lead. Jeff Bodine moves to the inside of Richmond. Jeff Bodine out of row number 2, and Neil Bonnet runs in 4th. Around turn 3, turn 4. Benny, no matter how many times you see an automobile race, be it an IndyCar race, a Formula 1 race, a late model sportsman race, or a Grand National stock car race, that is a bunch of machinery.
It is exciting. To start, there is nothing in this world, and no sporting event to me is any more exciting than the beginning of a stock car race.
Well, certainly it appears as though the pace is a little more calm than it was last night during the late model sportsman race. In the middle of the screen is the number 4 of Joe Ruttman. He was caught right in the middle of the turmoil last night. He's in 10th position right now behind Waltrip. He was in trouble as they came off of turn number 4 on lap number 4 under green flag last night.
It looks like Bill Elliott doesn't have the jump that I felt like he was going to. I talked to him earlier, and he said that his car was really hooked up. Does not appear that he's going like I thought he would earlier when I talked to him today.
Benny, it's certainly not to me, because I've never driven Grand National cars the second guess, but I got to tell you, I think everybody is taking it just a tad careful. They're feeling this place out, making sure it's race ready.
I think, and like crash last night, look, that was all that they wanted to talk about down in the pit area today, was the crash last night in the late model sportsman race. And believe me, these drivers do not want that to happen to them. Here, Terry Labonte and Darrell Waltrip are moving by my brother Phil Parsons, who had an excellent qualifying run.
That's 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th. Richmond, as we told you, 3rd. Bonnet is 4th. Ricky Rudd is 5th. Greg Sachs is 6th. Terry Labonte now 7th. Phil Parsons 8th, but that's changing rapidly. Darrell Waltrip is in there for 9th. In 10th position is Ruttman. 11th is Bill Elliott. 12th is Ron Bouchard. 13th is Bobby Allison. And 14th is Lake Speed. 12 laps officially, now make it 13, have been completed.
Just some excellent racing going all the way around the racetrack. Phil has gotten caught on the outside and just simply cannot get back to the inside, which right now is clearly the fastest way around the racetrack.
Oftentimes on a paved, high-banked half-mile racetrack, the fastest groove is right up along the wall, about a foot or so off foot. But because of conditions, because of the weight of the cars here at Bristol, in a Grand National stock car, you see that white line like on a highway. That pretty much lines out the best groove around this racetrack.
It really does. Right on the bottom of the racetrack. And Phil just, he's got the car sideways coming off turn 4.
I think that Phil's reason perhaps for slowing is he may not have tires that are just to his liking, Benny. It's difficult for him to stay down. He's loose again.
Yes, he just simply has to go up the racetrack to keep the car under control. And meanwhile, while he's doing that, the other drivers are driving by him.
Well, Phil has dropped back to 12th position after having started in 8th. There's Phil once again now trying to hold back the challenges of Lake Speed. Here's what happened on the previous lap.
Well, he's up in the middle of the corner. He stands on the accelerator, and we can see the car just simply go sideways. And he's very lucky that Bobby Allison didn't hit him in the rear and complete the car spinning on around.
Now, it may not sound as exciting, perhaps, if you're not real familiar with racing. They go 200 miles an hour at Darlington. Waltrip, by the way, while we're watching this, is also having a little bit of problems. But I can only assure you that at 115 to 135, 140 miles an hour in a half-mile racetrack, this is probably easily more demanding and certainly more frightening to a race driver than one of those big super speedways.
But this is the toughest racetrack physically that the Grand National drivers compete on. The toughest racetrack there is. There's a good shot of Bobby Allison in his own car.
Yeah, Bobby Allison has forsaken the mount that he had a week ago when we last saw him. and has returned to the Buick. Bobby Allison, of course, maintaining his own team at least for the rest of the season, but he told us earlier this week that he does not plan on running his own team next year. He is looking to get involved with somebody else and looking perhaps for additional sponsorship, although Miller American is certainly still a very strong candidate. Slower traffic is finally beginning to make its way back to the leaders, or the leaders catching up to them. Earnhardt leads this race with Bodine and Richmond in second and third. Bonnet is fourth. Rudd is fifth. Waltrip has now moved up to sixth position. He just moved around the outside of Greg Sachs, but Dale Earnhardt right now showing everybody that the brand new track record last week was an indication of things, or last night, an indication of things to come.
And he's simply taking up where he left off in the spring on the race we saw on ESPN. He won the race even though the power steering went out. So he was a tough customer in April, as you mentioned at the top of the show. And as I said, he has taken up where he left off, just driving away from him right now, Larry.
Well, if we went green the entire race, they could do this on 2 pit stops, but that is really unlikely. If you've never seen a race at the Bristol International Raceway before, I guarantee you'll be sorry if you don't stay tuned.
Greg Sachs lost control in turn 2 of lap number 83 to bring out the yellow flag. We continue on lap number 120 with Darrell Waltrip and Dale Earnhardt battling for the lead here on ESPN Classic.
Here is the race for the lead, and hey, I've never seen one closer than this.
They have been like this for 2 or 3 laps. I just kept hoping they would stay this way so the viewers could see it when we came back off break. And they still are side by side. Who led that lap, Larry?
I don't know. I think
Too
it was
close
a
to
tie.
call.
Yeah. Hey, everybody, this is really a classic confrontation. See Earnhardt just oozing down off the banks, trying to squeeze Waltrip out of room. He hopes by moving him down on the inside of the racetrack that Waltrip has to do exactly what he just did and get out of the throttle and tuck in behind. It's been an excellent study in professional race driving.
These two fellows have really put on a show for these fans tonight. And the people in the grandstands have been on their feet cheering for the last 10 laps. These guys are really going at it.
Boy, they really are.
They're going to try it again.
Just to update you briefly on the weather, no indications. Now, we, of course, are inside here in a glass-enclosed booth, so we can't tell exactly how the clouds are rolling in, but it seems to be just a little more clear. I see the mountains, and there goes, yeah, whatever his name is, Waltrip.
The 11 car, Darrell Waltrip.
Yeah, the 11 car to the inside of Earnhardt. It looks like it's just a little clearer than it was when this race started. He may get away with this one, Benny. Well,
no. Earnhardt leads the lap.
Dale Earnhardt not running as fast as Darrell Waltrip. That's obvious. If he was running as fast as Darrell, he'd be pulling away, but he's been able to hold back Darrell Waltrip because he's been running perfect circles, as they say in the racing trade.
Now, if he can just keep... Ooh, Darrell gets a little sideways, which I thought he had him, but he got it just a little bit sideways. Dale pulls up alongside of him, and Earnhardt using all that racetrack, keeping Darrell on the inside, moving him down as much as he can, taking away all the racetrack away from Darrell.
Hey, this may look easy to you at home, but believe me, this is precision work. You'll never see anything like this at any Daredevil show. This is tremendous.
This is a great, great race. They can't do that. I've been here. That's impossible to do that.
Oh, is that right?
Yes, but they're doing it lap after lap.
And the interesting thing is, it's been very clean racing. You know, in some forms of racing, the contact in the sport is part of it. And to a certain degree on a short racetrack, the Grand National drivers will tolerate it. But these guys have been going at it perfectly, lap after lap, without banging into each other.
And Darrell tried again that time coming off turn 2. Even though the slow cars were there, he felt like Earnhardt maybe getting behind the slow cars would get held up for just a moment. But they didn't. You know, Jackie Root talked a moment ago about the tire that was blistered on Darrell's car. Running high on the racetrack is going to cause the tire to blister. So Earnhardt may have an advantage in the long term staying on the bottom of the racetrack.
Well, there's Ricky Rudd and Jeff Woodine. They are 4th and 5th. And just momentarily, you caught a glimpse. There is at the bottom of the screen, the number 22, the red and white car, Bobby Allison. He is still running fast. Now, there's Bobby. He is quietly...
Darrell and
Waltrip moved to the inside. They
got together, coming off the second corner, got together very, very good. But but Waltrip has the lead.
And now we'll see if we're right, Benny. Darrell has been running faster than Dale, and he might run off and hide. Started to tell you a little bit about Allison. Just an update as we watch the first 2 cars. Allison has quietly moved into 4th position, and he's only about a straightaway behind those 2 guys. There's Joe Rubbin at the top of the screen. Joe's been turning in a great performance the last 50 or 60 laps, but unfortunately, he is 3 laps in arrears.
You know, we see that Darrell Waltrip, as soon as he got by Dale Earnhardt, moved down on the racetrack, and he seemed to have lost some of the edge. He's not pulling away from Dale Earnhardt like we thought he would. He's not trying to pull away. Jackie Root a moment ago mentioned that blister tire. Now Darrell Waltrip has the lead. He's trying to keep the tires on the car. He's trying to run on the bottom of the racetrack and keep the tires so they won't blister.
Well, how you do that is, as Benny says, you move down to the bottom of the racetrack and you can run the tires a little cooler. The centrifugal force doesn't tug away at the outer skin of the tire like it does when you're up on the banks.
Exactly right.
There's Darrell Waltrip continuing to hold that advantage on Earnhardt. And here's what it looked like just a couple of laps ago.
In turn one, Dale Earnhardt goes up the racetrack, and look, Darrell right on the bottom of the racetrack, right on the white line.
Well, he saw it, Benny. You could see him punch that accelerator right in the middle of the corner. He
Yes.
said, oh, Earnhardt has slipped up. Here's my chance.
And he just moves up the racetrack because he cannot see Earnhardt, and they rub tires. That's right. Darrell Waltrip's right rear and Dale Earnhardt's left rear tires made contact.
Waltrip continues to lead. 135 laps are complete. Bobby Allison continues to move a little closer toward the top. Waltrip has not run away from hid from Earnhardt. You can see he's moved from 10th to 1st. Joe Ruttman runs competitively, laps down. Tim Richmond runs 3rd, but here comes Bobby Allison. They're going to be doing a little bit of a tussle in the next couple of laps. Not there yet. They'll go at it for 3rd spot.
Darrell Waltrip, as I keep talking about, but I think it bears repeating, he does not want to drive away. He simply wants to keep those tires on the car. He don't want to blister any more tires tonight.
Okay, quick rundown. After 137 laps now complete, 12 cars in the lead lap by last names only. Waltrip, Earnhardt, Richmond, Allison, Rudd, Bodine, Labonte, Bonnet, Elliott, Richard Petty, Kyle Petty, and Lake Speed. Well, there is the 3rd running car of Tim Richmond, and there is the 4th running car of Bobby Allison. We told you that we anticipated that in the next 4 or 5 laps, but I guess things happen so quick here, maybe that'll be the next 15 laps.
But I think he definitely is going to catch him. There is no doubt that Bobby Allison is clearly one of the faster cars on the racetrack.
And there's Ricky Rudd. He runs in 5th position. This is probably the best performance for Rudd and Allison in quite some time. It's a good race for them because both of them, they weren't exactly down, but they really needed to have a good race.
These are two guys that haven't won a race this year. Oh, Lake Speed and Buddy Baker got together on turn 4. I thought that they had spun, but they didn't.
Well, there is Jeff Bodine.
He's in 6th place right now, and I felt like that Bodine, and I still think that Knight is very, very young. I think the 5 car is still one of the cars to beat tonight, Larry.
Well, they've had a lot of disappointments this year. You see his best 85 finishes, 2nd and 3rd, a couple of 4ths. They've led a lot of races. They have been the kingpin a number of times, and little nagging things have taken them out of races. He thought when the season began he had a real clean shot at the points championship. That may have gone away, but he has potential to be as good as any race driver out there, any team out there.
He certainly does. And there's last year's champion, Terry Labonte. And that just goes to show you how fast things turn around in Winston Cup Grand National racing. Last year's champion, this year 1 victory, 2 pole positions, but it's not the year that they envisioned in January.
Yeah, Terry has described this season as, quote, miserable, end quote. It's not been quite that bad, but it's certainly not been like 1984.
Exactly. And there is Neil Bonnet, 2 victories so far this year. And with Bill Elliott winning 9 of 18 races, he and Dale Earnhardt and Bill Elliott are the only multiple winners on the circuit. But for the last 2 or 3 months, the 12 car's been floundering, trying to find the combination.
There have been only 6 winners all year on the Grand National Trail. Elliott has won 9. That's about 50%. There's the guy who's won half the races so far on the trail in 1985. He's in 9th position right now. Bonnet, as Benny mentioned, has won 2. Earnhardt has won 2. There's a look at Bill Elliott. The single winners are Darrell Waltrip, Harry Gant, and Terry Labonte. Only 6, and that in itself is really incredible.
It really is. At this point in the race, last year we had about 10 winners at this stage of the season.
Only 6 guys have won races, and only 5 guys, only 5 drivers all year have reigned as the top qualifier after a Grand National qualifying.
Bill Elliott has just taken away all the parity this year. There's Kyle Petty, and I noticed a moment ago he drove by Daddy. And now,
yeah, Kyle may be watching the leaders coming up. They are in jeopardy right now of going a lap down. The leaders are, see if I can find them for you on the racetrack. Oh, they're maybe a second or so behind. Kyle is in 10th position right now, and Richard is in 11th, and the leaders are rapidly coming up. There is the King, looking like he has since 1958, Benny. He hasn't changed at all.
I was looking at some things. He ran in the first race. This is the 25th anniversary of this speedway, and Richard Petty drove in the first one in 1961.
And he is the only guy running this race tonight who was in that race.
No, Buddy Baker.
Oh, that's right. You're right.
Buddy Baker as well.
Forgot about Buddy. Now, nobody has run all of them, but those two guys were in the inaugural about 25 years ago. Darrell Waltrip continues to lead this race with 150 laps now completed with 500 laps scheduled for this event. Dale Earnhardt runs in second. I guess if you have really good eyesight, you can see damage on the number 77 car. We are under caution flag. Greg Sachs scraped the wall going down the backstretch. All the leaders, by the way, are coming. You see Bonnet going by. Sachs scraped the wall. He came to a stop. There's Darrell Waltrip on the outside between turns 3 and 4. Too much traffic. He couldn't come down. Had to throw the caution flag. But this was an opportunity for everybody to come in here on lap 56.
And Darrell Waltrip lost the race in the pits one more time. Dale Earnhardt's crew, again, the Wrangler crew beat Darrell's crew. Dale is back in the lead, and this time Dale Earnhardt changed left side tires. Darrell Waltrip changed right side tires. Who made the right decision?
Well, only time will tell. By the way, lap 156, not just 56. There's Waltrip. You can see those white goggles, a trademark of Darrell. Terry Labonte in the pits, cruising around the racetrack. Caution flag, allowing everybody to kind of regroup. It was, again, a forced caution flag for a minor incident involving Greg Sachs, but he did lose at least one, maybe as many as 2 laps. There have been a total of 3 caution flags. They had accumulated for 16 laps prior to this, and there have been 6 lead changes among 3 drivers. And that's a small number for a Grand National race here at Bristol.
There was something wrong on that 44 car. They was very, very long time up on that right rear. Mike Alexander has lost the left rear tire on his car. It's fallen off. It's going down the back straightaway. You can see there comes a tire down the back straightaway minus the car. And we saw the car minus the wheel.
That's one way of putting it. Well, we were about 2 laps from going back to green, but this will certainly slow things down as that wheel aimlessly wanders down the backstretch. What happens in a case like that? Somebody tries to work too quickly during a pit stop, and either all or maybe none. No, I don't think that's possible if the lugs get on.
No, it's possible, because I left the racetrack at Nashville one time with no lug nuts on the car, and I made it for a half a lap before it fell off.
Now, this is the guy whose shop is across the street, the 27-year-old. This is the Sadler race car. The only guy who drove on the highway, and by the way, I understand they installed temporary lights and brakes and license plates, so all the law enforcement authorities were okay on it. He's the only guy who drove here to the race. Everybody else, of course, got carried in big, fancy haulers. 158 laps are complete. Earnhardt and Elliott, but there are still a lot of other top competitors who may be lying in wait, just waiting in the bushes. On the racetrack, Benny.
He's been slowing down for 4 or 5 laps, and there's been some smoke coming out the left exhaust pipe. But it looks like the thing has finally given up and refuses to run anymore.
Well, he was running in 11th position, and I don't know, maybe miserable is a good adjective after all. Terry Labonte, the defending Busch 500 winner, or rather defending champion.
And he's going behind the wall, and anytime those cars get back in the darkness where you can't see them, there is a serious problem. Jackie Root, I think, may be down there. Jackie, are you?
Benny, what we're doing is following up on your question as to why Junior Johnson may have elected to change right side tires again. He had no choice. Look at the splice on this tire. This is off the right front. It was beginning to come apart. They're very upset about the fact that they got a defective tire, but more so because they wanted to change the left tires.
Well, despite all those tire irregularities, Waltrip has been turning in an outstanding performance. I got to tell you, Benny, after seeing that tire, I'm even more impressed.
So am I. But the thing is Darrell Waltrip, in going to the front, has been punishing his tires. As Jackie has shown us his tires, he has been punching those tires. He simply now is going to have to back off a little bit, let Dale Earnhardt go on, and take it easy on those tires, because he's still, right now, Darrell Waltrip needs to pit on the green flag. They need to run 150 laps and pit on the green so he can change 4 tires.
Okay, 10 cars on the lead lap. Kyle Petty is the 10th one. The number 3 car of Dale Earnhardt is the first one. It's Earnhardt, Waltrip, Richmond. Bobby Allison has ascended to 4th. Jeff Bodine, the number 12 car of Neil Bonnet, Bill Elliott, Ricky Rudd, Richard Petty, and Kyle Petty, both of the Petty people, avoided getting lapped. Well, Earnhardt has really had his hands full tonight with Mr. Waltrip. The two of them are two of the most experienced competitors in Grand National racing, but Earnhardt talked about how you are good here at Bristol.
Well, you got to be ready all the time here. It's such a close, you know, tight-knit racetrack. You race close, and it's a high bank and everything. You got to stay ready all the time.
Dale Earnhardt continues to orbit around the high bank .533 mile oval here in Bristol, Tennessee. It's a beautiful setting. We are nestled among mountains and foothills in northern Tennessee, just north of the Virginia, or rather south of the Virginia state line. And it's a really pretty part of the country to be in, Denny.
As a matter of fact, Bristol is a twin city. It is both in Tennessee and Virginia. The state line is Main Street. Darrell Waltrip is coming back. He has gained back up on Earnhardt. I thought that Earnhardt being able to change lefts and Darrell not, that Dale Earnhardt would have a tremendous advantage. But Earnhardt is coming. I mean, Darrell Waltrip has moved back up on the bumper, and he's making a challenge for the lead again.
Well, Main Street, USA, for tonight at least, is this racetrack. And Darrell Waltrip is proving, I think, that if you are an outstanding race driver, you can compensate for a lot of other minor, nagging little problems that might otherwise keep you back into 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, or 10th.
And Darrell Waltrip is really trying some different lines. When I see him low on the racetrack, I see him high on the racetrack. He's trying to find out where his car will run, where he can keep up and keep the tires on the car. But I don't think that high is the place that he wants to be. I think he's going to simply get the tires too hot. And the tires are, Jeff Bodine is spun up in turn 3 and 4.
Lots of people right behind him, everybody darting to the high side, the low side, both sides, and Bodine, as you can see, he's got damage to the right rear quarter panel of that race car.
He has blown a right rear tire, and it has just simply torn the right rear quarter panel up.
Oh, a tough break. Once again, the Levi Garrett machine, through no fault of their own, seemingly is in trouble. Now, Bodine limps into the pit area. Pieces fly off the race car. You can see the right rear tire relieving itself from the rim. As he comes to a stop, the leaders go by. Bodine goes down at least 1, maybe 2 laps. Jeff Bodine, who seemingly was cruising right where they had planned a pre-race strategy, running in 4th, is now out of it. Jeff
Bodine dejectedly has brought his car into the pits, and they're making adjustments on the right side, as you can see, changing the tires. But they're also trying to pry off the sheet metal on the left side as well. He streaks by us, and the tire on the back has just torn all to pieces when it exploded.
Well, all the leaders have come into the pits. There's Earnhardt. Let's see if he can get service like he has the last couple times and get out before Waltrip comes back. This may be an opportunity for Bodine to get at least 1 lap back. Again, unofficially, we anticipate that he lost 2. No, Earnhardt is coming out. Bodine lost 1 lap. Earnhart's coming out. Waltrip's coming out. They're side by side. They almost scrape, and Earnhardt, or rather Waltrip, just cannot get a bite.
No, he can't. He's on the bottom of the racetrack where it's wet, and Earnhardt was out a little bit, and it was dry there. He was able to. And guess who's leading, or is going to be leading the race when this thing starts back? Bobby Allison. Because he is pitted on the back. Earnhardt slowed the field down when the caution came out. Bobby Allison went in the pits.
Jeff Bodine has come back in the pits for a second time. There is the leader, Bobby Allison. Now, Bobby Allison started 16th. He is pitted on the backstretch. He ran comfortably in 9th, 10th, and 11th for the first 100 laps. Then he really became a come-on. He really started to come on, rather. He moved up to 4th, and now he comes out of the pits in 1st spot. Jack Arute is with a man who's had some disappointments here tonight, Terry Labonte.
And dejected would be an understatement. Terry, this has just not been your year after a pretty decent start.
I know it. I don't really know what happened. I think a burning piston or something. The thing ran pretty good at the start, and then it started vibrating and started running a little hot. Finally, I guess it just burnt the piston.
While you were out there, you had a good chance to look at the rest of the competition. It's been a torrid battle up front between Earnhardt and Waltrip. Who do you think has got the advantage right now?
I don't really know. It's hard to tell. You know, both of them are running awful strong. I'll tell you one that's running strong is Bobby Allison. He looks like his car is really working good. Not sure he'll be one to contend with.
We were looking at tires, making a survey off and on throughout the pit stops here. Looks like some tires, and it's going to be another story, typical of Bristol, are blistering on the right rear. Is that normal for here?
No, not really. But it looks like it's happened this time, though.
Well, that's the story from the pits from the Piedmont Airlines driver, Terry Labonte.
Bodine continues to dart in and out of the pits, in and out. Bobby Allison is the leader. Earnhardt has led the most laps by far in this race. He's led 4 different times, one time for 39 laps, another time for 75. He'll be one to contend with when we go back to green.
From Darrell Waltrip on lap 260 and continues to lead, with Waltrip now a close second and Tim Richmond a distant third, as we return to the race on lap 315 of the 1985 Busch 500 here on ESPN Classic.
Well, the top 5 after 315 laps: Dale Earnhardt, Darrell Waltrip, Tim Richmond, Kyle Petty, and Bill Elliott. And only the first 3 cars are on the lead lap. History here at Bristol, well, starting positions. In 49 previous Winston Cup races, the winner has started out of the top 10 only 5 times, a pretty poor percentage. The last driver to do it, Dale Earnhardt, who started 12th in this year's Valleydale 500 or the spring race. The best place to start? Well, Dale Earnhardt had that pole position. 12 winners, where about 25% of them have started up front.
Well, this racetrack, with the banks and the speeds that they run, starting up front is a definite advantage. And Earnhardt started on the pole, and he really hasn't looked back except a few times when Darrell Waltrip got by him.
Earnhardt and Waltrip are almost embarrassing everybody else in this field. There you see Earnhardt's 85 finishes. He has a couple of wins. Very few drivers have won races this year, and even smaller number have won multiple races. But Earnhardt is going for it tonight, and this might be win number 3.
Yes. He's pulling alongside leg speed, putting him another lap down, going in turn 3. But there's Bill Elliott. He's keeping the thing in straight anyway.
Well, his best short track finish this year has been a 6th, and he's pushing that right now. Right now, he's running in 5th, and there is Harry Gant. Now, normally, particularly on the big race tracks, because Harry is often so fast, we see a lot from him, but he's been relatively quiet tonight, but he stayed out of trouble, and he looks like he's headed for a solid top 10.
He is. He's just a lap down, and he's 2 laps down right now. I'm sorry, I thought he was racing Neil Bonnet for position, but he's in 9th spot. And Harry had a tough qualifying. He qualified 15th, which really got him behind the 8 ball. There's a good picture of Harry again, who, I might add, just a couple of weeks ago in Michigan, won the International Race of Champions Series, and with that, $150,000.
He really surprised Darrell Waltrip. Darrell admitted in victory lane afterwards, we never thought about Harry Gant. Everything had to happen for Harry. He had to lead the most laps, he had to finish ahead of Waltrip, and he had to win the race. Seemingly impossible, but he did it.
And I tried to borrow a quarter, and guess what?
Yeah, he said no, right?
That's right.
You know, Harry made a very nice gesture about the winnings from that series. He distributed that just like the normal winnings that he would make with his Grand National team. He said, the reason why I'm here is because my guys in the Grand National car worked so hard. My car owner, Hal Needham, and Burt Reynolds, my crew, Travis Carter, the crew chief, they are the reason why I'm here. They gave me the opportunity to win this extra money, and I'm dealing with this just like I would if this was Grand National money, and he spread it out among all of them.
I felt like that was one of the nicest gestures I'd ever heard of in Grand National racing. Gave Needham his share and the crew their share.
Harry Gant in car number 33, Neil Bonnet in number 12, and right now it looks like they're out of it for victory, both laps down. There's Ricky Rudd. Ricky trying that real high groove.
He is really running high. Evidently his car just is not working. That's the 8th place car, and look how high he gets up in the turn. We've talked about, Larry, just how the groove is on the bottom of the racetrack, and here Ricky Rudd is going right to the top of the racetrack, up against the guardrail, back down the middle of the racetrack, but his car is not slipping. His only problem is it's sticking very well up there, but it's so far around the racetrack as compared to the competition. He's probably running 50 yards that Dale Earnhardt and Darrell Waltrip is not running on a lap.
Yeah, he's running farther, and it certainly adds up when you do that 500 times. It really makes a difference. He qualified 6th fastest today. He won 1 race in 1984, but like so many of the drivers who anticipated winning in 1985, it just hasn't happened yet. He did finish 2nd at this race in the spring. He put on a very fine performance, but he just couldn't set down Dale Earnhardt, who was wrestling that power steering-less automobile.
That's right. He finished 2nd.
Oh, there's a pose we've seen a number of times. What, 3 or 4 times before you've seen that?
You know, there doesn't seem to be anything in the world that bothers Junior. He just watches his cars getting beat right now, and beaten rather soundly. But you know, you can't tell by looking at him if he's running 1st a lap ahead or 5th a lap down.
He's a very interesting man, Benny, and he's all businesslike when it comes to racing. He takes this game very seriously, and despite the fact that he's a legend, and a lot of people make fun of the Ingle Hauler and the Rhonda, North Carolina, down where he lives, and the good old boy racing, he's quite a businessman, and he's been a big, big plus, in my opinion, for the sport of racing. Jack?
Junior Johnson may not be showing any sort of emotions right now, but his head is whirling like a whirling dervish. They have got a problem. I checked with Junior and with Jeff Hammond. They've got another tire that's going down. It's blistering, not going down. So they've backed out of the throttle a little bit. But consider this on the Earnhardt side of the issue. He's running fine, and they're beginning now to just measure up what set of tires they want to go with on that last pit stop. Add a third and very important variable. It's beginning to mist just so slightly down here on pit road. So what do you do, Benny? Do you nurse that tire, or do you signal to Darrell Waltrip that, hey, we might get rain and this thing might end prematurely, so go back and try and get to the front?
I think that they're going to have to nurse the car, because if Darrell really leans on that tire, if it is blistered, it's simply he's going to have problems with it and have to make a pit stop and lose a couple of laps. And right now, Dale Earnhardt is putting a serious challenge on Tim Richmond to put him a lap down. Now, that would leave only he and Darrell Waltrip in the lead lap, and I don't think Darrell wants to give up that position.
Now, let's consider that subject of rain that Jack has brought up. For Darrell Waltrip, obviously, winning the race is priority number one. There's Earnhardt again, putting the heat on Tim Richmond. Winning the race is priority number one, but a close second is finishing ahead of Bill Elliott. And even though he might not have an opportunity to win this race, he wants to be certain that he at least finishes ahead of Elliott so he can move in just a touch.
Well, but he's only going to gain if he finishes right now. If they finish the way they are, he would only gain 10 points on Bill Elliott. And that really isn't what he needs at a short racetrack. He needs 30 or 40 points at a Bristol, because he's going to lose 10 or 15 when he gets to there. Earnhardt drives alongside Tim Richmond and does put him a lap down.
All right, let's talk a little bit about this potential of rain. If it rains, expect the race to be interrupted. Unless it rains very hard, they will not throw the red flag. We have gone far enough to make this an official race, but every effort will be made to complete this race to run the 500 laps. It's about 9:45 here in Bristol, Tennessee tonight. 337 laps have been completed, about 160 to go, so they've got a lot of time, should the rain start to come down harder, to slow this race down and then try to finish it later this evening.
Well, they have till 1 o'clock in the morning as far as that goes. There isn't a curfew there. We can race. And look, Darrell Waltrip is closed back up. He's closed back up. He's right on the back bumper of Dale Earnhardt. Now, does Earnhardt have a problem all of a sudden? Because Waltrip has just instantly gained. Yes, I think Earnhardt has a problem.
Here comes Darrell Waltrip. Maybe Darrell is seeing those little sprinkles of rain pelting the windshield. Darrell is going to make a run at him. Darrell Waltrip has decided now is the time. He looks to the high side of Dale Earnhardt. He fills Dale's mirror and says, hey, Dale, here I come, buddy. He goes to the high side again. That's not been the fastest group for most of the drivers tonight, but it has worked for Darrell Waltrip. Once again, he takes a look at Earnhardt. They look at each other's eyes through the rearview mirror.
Yes, Jackie Root has something from the pits.
Yes, Benny, I checked with Richard Childress. I said, is there a problem? He said, no, we're running just as strong as we were before. It's just that Waltrip's gotten a little bit stronger.
Well, you know, the characteristics of these cars can change as the fuel load drops. Maybe it becomes in harmony with the spring and the tires that you particularly have at that moment. So as the fuel gets lighter in the race car, it can have an effect on the performance.
It can, but I tell you what, Waltrip gains, he gained all the advantage in a lap or two. It's like that something happened to, but I guess that Jackie is right. He's down there in the trenches, and I don't have a stopwatch up here. I don't know if that Darrell Waltrip gained a tenth or two on those laps, and evidently he did.
Okay, those are the two guys. One lap down in order. Richmond runs third. Kyle Petty is fourth. Bill Elliott is fifth. Neil Bonnet is sixth. Waltrip takes another look up top. Richard Petty is seventh. Coming off of turn number 4, Waltrip is off the pace. Waltrip slows down suddenly. Now he moves back up on the groove. Did he just lose control momentarily, Benny? I think so.
Well, he probably, you know, that's the thing with a bad tire. And Richmond is off the pace as well. Tim Richmond, the third-place runner, is off the pace. Now he's back up to speed.
Well, both drivers kind of suddenly slowing, coming off of turn number 4, but picking it back up right away. But for Earnhardt, what an advantage, because he now races into turn number 4. Now there is Waltrip, there is Earnhardt coming off of 4 on the high side of the front stretch. There's Richmond going by, and no, that was Joe Ruttman, and there's the number 11 car of Darrell Waltrip. So you can see that Waltrip has lost maybe 500 feet. There is Darrell getting sideways. I think that tire is taking effect, Benny.
Yes, he almost lost control of that car. Almost went around. Now he's really nursing that car. You know, I guess that he did. He tried to catch Earnhardt. He really put some pressure on that tire, and it would not take it.
And I think that's an example of how delicate that tire feels, because oftentimes a major league race driver like him, he gets out of control. He stays in the throttle. Darrell got out of it that time to protect the situation. Well, 350 laps are coming up, and Dale Earnhardt right now has a clean and green racetrack in front of him. Darrell Waltrip desperately would like a yellow flag so they perhaps could make some changes in the tire department. Back at Bristol, Tennessee, and Darrell Waltrip, despite what we think to be tires that aren't working just properly, is staying with it. He's slogging away, and he's really putting the pressure on Earnhardt.
He really is. I tell you what about, talk about perseverance. Darrell Waltrip tonight just keeps coming back. Several times I thought that Earnhardt had clearly a better race car. Darrell keeps coming back, and right now seems to have a better race car than Earnhardt.
And believe me, it takes a lot of intestinal fortitude. It truly does. It's not just a cliche to say, but this is tough work. Pounding on this pavement, the G-forces, 3 or 4 Gs as they go into the corners, it's very difficult, and it really does hurt. Just plain old hurts after about 200 or 300 laps here.
Are you tired of overnighters that don't go over well?
Darrell Waltrip has spun out in turn number 4. And with it, does that mean the hopes of a 1985 championship? A dramatic turn of events.
No caution flag. What a tough break for Darrell. No caution flag, and the quarter panel is knocked in on the right rear tire, so he's going to have to pit. We can see the smoke coming off the right rear tire, so he's got to go to the pits, and no caution flag.
He has won 7 of the last 9 races here, as the graphic showed you. Waltrip obviously hit the wall in turn 4, and he's sliding again, coming off of turn number 4. Right in front of other cars, sprinting right in front of Allison and Burchwell. Neil Bonnet goes by. Lake Speed, Dale Earnhardt. Waltrip goes down a lap to the leader, and Waltrip is in deep trouble.
And his right rear tire is flat. The quarter panel cut the right rear tire. That's why he spun coming off turn 4. Darrell tried to stay on the racetrack until the caution came out for something else, but he caused the caution flag. But unfortunately, Earnhardt did put him a lap down.
Benny, one race does not make a season, but that moment might determine, it's possible, that might be the difference in the championship for this season. Waltrip had Elliott covered at least tonight.
Yes, he did. He had him beaten tonight. And right now, you know, he's a lap down along with Bill Elliott and some of the rest of them. Jackie Root is down there.
Junior Johnson, Jeff Hammond, and the entire Budweiser crew have gone to work on a dejected Darrell Waltrip. Waltrip looks over, takes a quick peek at his wife Stevie, and just shrugs his shoulders. But they're taking the pry bar, and Junior's out there on the right side trying to pry it loose so they can fix the tire, make the exchange. They drop the jack, and he had it in reverse. He spins the tires to go back so that he won't lose any more laps.
Most unique occurrence. That is something that you have seen very seldom in the last half-decade.
He's trying to pass Earnhardt on the outside. He's been gaining. He goes into turn high. He just simply lets it get around. He backs up in the fence, makes contact with the guardrail right there, and knocks the quarter panel in on the tire. Comes down, and all the other cars miss him. He brings the car to a halt. The car stops right there on the apron. Now, NASCAR watching this, he is clearly out of the way. So they do not throw the caution flag. See, he's already in trouble. As he enters the corner, he's in trouble just going in the corner. The car just never stops going around.
It looked like he hit a bump at the wrong time, and he wasn't getting good adhesion to begin with. And as the car was upset going over that bump, when it came back down on the ground, it just wasn't pointed in the right direction. Darrell Waltrip.
That puts Dale Earnhardt in the lead in a lap of his own.
Yeah, it really does. It's like days of old. Benny, when you won a race here, you were telling me earlier today that you won by 7 or 8 laps, and lately the races, there have been 4 or 5 cars on the lead lap.
Yes.
Well, 368 laps are now complete, and Dale Earnhardt really has clear sailing in front of him. But Earnhardt now has to hold on in this treacherous half-mile racetrack at Bristol, Tennessee.
1985 Busch 500 with just over 100 laps remaining. Dale Earnhardt, Kyle Petty, and Darrell Waltrip are in first, second, and third place as we go back to green on ESPN Classic.
Getting ready to go green with just a little more than 100 laps to go. Remember that Dale Earnhardt is being shown as the only driver on the lead lap. There are 5 cars, 1 lap down to the leader, and they include, at this point, second place Kyle Petty, Darrell Waltrip third, Tim Richmond fourth, Bill Elliott fifth, and Neil Bonnet sixth. Seventh, 2 laps down, Harry Gant, and 8th, Bobby Allison. 9th, 3 laps down, Ron Bouchard. 10th, 4 laps down, the number 43 of Richard Petty, and 11th, 5 laps down, the number 15 of Ricky Rudd. Kyle Petty, is he on the verge of maybe winning for the first time ever in his Grand National Stock Car career? He's got an entire lap and 1 blue and yellow car to get around.
Well, it's not the lap that's the problem. It's that blue and yellow car. Earnhardt has been the most dominant car all night, and I think right now he's just simply going to stay in front of whoever is in second place, and right now that's Kyle Petty. I think that he probably would have more trouble staying in front of Darrell Waltrip than he will Kyle Petty. And Darrell Waltrip is not out of this thing. He is only 1 lap down, but yet his car is back in shape. He's running good. Darrell's not out of this thing either.
I want to tell you one thing about Earnhardt, and it's kind of a little personal, I guess. I like Earnhardt. I like him as a race driver. He's exciting. He's intense. You get 101% from him every single lap, and I would suggest that it's going to be tough for him to hold back just a little bit. That's not his nature.
Oh, well, no, it isn't. It really isn't his nature. That's exactly right. But I think that right now with 100 laps to go that he is a realist, and he knows why punish the car when I really and truly don't have to.
Lap 400 coming up this time. 400 out of 500 complete. 80% of this race is now over. There's Kyle Petty, the blue and white red numeral 7. He runs in second place on the track, but he is 1 lap down, remember, to Dale Earnhardt.
And he's got all he can handle. Kyle Petty is going to have all he can handle with Tim Richmond. And Jeff Bodine spins 1 more time up at turn 4.
Lots of smoke, but it looked like he avoided any wall contact. We'll see the right side of the car as he goes by. Boy, Jeff has got to be shaking his head back and forth as he powers down the front stretch here and slows down. I heard an explosion. It sounded like somebody's tire going down. The caution flag is out. There is steam or something above turn number 4, but I guess that's the fog beginning to roll in. There's a replay on what happened with Jeff Bodine. There's Bouchard going by. Elliott goes by. Camera pulls back, shows Bodine spinning on the high side.
He just simply goes around. I don't know what caused it. I saw some smoke. I thought there was an excessive amount of smoke inside the car. Now everybody is back in the pits 1 more time. Everybody would love to win this race out of the pits to get in front of Dale Earnhardt. Jackie Arute is down in the pits.
And they're going to the left side rubber on Dale Earnhardt's car. You can see the scars on the left side from doing battle at Bristol. He's off and away. They've made the exchange. And a quick cursory survey of the tires there, Benny. Things look pretty good for Dale Earnhardt.
Well, I think, Jackie, that Dale has been nursing the car. He's keeping that thing alive just as well as he can because he knows there's potentially a problem for a tire to blister. In other words, the tire compound just a little bit too soft for what these fellows are putting them through tonight.
Well, here's one more look at what happened on the high side of turn number 4 to Jeff Bodine. Coming that time, you can see the smoke coming up on the bottom of the screen. Pull back and see Jeff spinning around like a whirligig, but no contact with the wall and no contact with any other race car.
Have tired, achy muscles got you?
While you were away, there were 2 very brief green flag laps, and then the rains came. Now, it is not coming down hard. You can see the puddle there in the pit area that there's enough sprinkles. The sprinkles have become serious enough to delay this race. The caution flag is out. By the way, the weather radar about a half hour ago was showing nothing, Benny, but I commented about what seemed to be fog moving in over turn number 4, and it may simply be that. It may be mountain fog that is condensing into rain because the weather radar is not picking it up, but it's wet enough out there to throw out the caution flag.
Well, but as we talked earlier in the race, these tires have no tread. They are slick. So therefore, they just simply cannot run in the rain. They have to slow down and take it easy, and that's what they're doing right now, hoping that the little brief sprinkles will go away and we get back to racing.
This is the 11th caution flag, the all-time record for caution flags here at Bristol. Just to give you an idea of how tonight has been going, is 12, and that was set here in the spring. So we are approaching that track record. 411 laps have been completed. Dale Earnhardt is out in front by at least a lap over the entire field. So nobody is really in a position to challenge Dale, so if they have to call this race, I would not think that from that standpoint there would be any hard feelings. Dale Earnhardt at number 3, the Wrangler Jeans car, the one tough customer who won here in the spring, is certainly well on his way again here tonight.
Benny, I've got a question for you up in the booth. Being a race driver, when you have the rain come down like this and the pace car running as slow as it is, are you not concerned as a driver that after an engine having been running so hot and so powerful all night that maybe you could foul a plug or something could go wrong right now?
That is a prime concern of everyone out there right now, is to don't foul any spark plugs. And there's several ways that you can go about that, and I'm sure every driver is implementing that right now, trying to keep the fuel, all the fuel is going in the engine, burned and not drowning those spark plugs out.
The reason why I ask that is as you watch it topside, watch Dale Earnhardt. He takes a run every once in a while in the pace car, as if he's trying to say to the pace car driver, look, I need a little more speed. I've got to keep my revs up.
Well, that's what he's trying. That run will also turn the engine more RPMs. He'll have that car in first or second gear when he makes that run, Jackie. He'll turn it more RPMs, therefore get rid of the excess fuel that's puddled down inside the engine.
Well, I thought there was only one guy that could answer that question. He was sitting right next to Larry Newber.
Absolutely, Jack. You know, the rain is just kind of irritating. It's not coming down like a rain shower. It's more than a sprinkle, but it's just enough, just barely enough to bring the proceedings here to a halt. Dale Earnhardt is thinking, gee, I wish they'd call this. Although thinking about Earnhardt, he likes to race so much, maybe not.
The race in Cleveland a couple of years ago, Larry, and that really was an exciting race. Those cars are just absolutely awesome. You know, we're looking at stock cars tonight, and the way the paint jobs and what have you, they look like race cars, and they are race cars. There's very little stock about them, except they are Chevrolets, and they are Fords, and they are Buicks and Pontiacs. Those cars, those Indy cars, are nothing but pure race cars.
Thoroughbreds.
Thoroughbreds.
Look at a green flag after a rain delay. 421 laps complete. Dale Earnhardt is the only driver on the lead lap. Neil Bonnet on the inside. He'll try to get back. The only lap that he is behind, and now Bonnet becomes the second car on the lead lap. We just talked to Tim Richmond. He's looking at getting underneath Earnhardt, but Earnhardt says no way.
Boy, he did. He closed the door on Richmond in turn 3. Richmond had some ideas, and Earnhardt just simply shut the door. He didn't close it. He shut the door.
Earnhardt slides into turn number 2. He turns the wick up on Neil Bonnet. He knows that Bonnet now becomes the only other threat, at least temporarily, on the racetrack. And Earnhardt is going after the Hueytown man.
Yes, he is. He's going after him strong. But Tim Brewer is right. Dale Earnhardt is a little bit loose right now. The car just slipping and sliding a little bit more than it should.
He may be slipping and sliding, but right now he looks like he's... And he touches Neil.
Knocks him up out of the way. Gets alongside of him.
Together. And Neil and Tim Richmond come together. So Neil Bonnet has a real rock'em sock'em corner.
And here comes Darrell Waltrip. Wow.
Now everybody right behind Dale runs for position. They're together on the racetrack, and they are all one lap down. And now Kyle is underneath Neil. Neil Bonnet is having a tough time.
Boy, they're just trying to knock the poor boy out of the way. He's having a tough time.
He's got to be wondering, is it something I said? Okay, Richmond runs in second place, one lap down. Waltrip is third, one lap down. Now, here's a look again at Dale Earnhardt getting underneath Neil. He bangs him going into the corner.
He bangs him going in the corner. Neil Bonnet has nothing to do except go up the racetrack. And when he does that, Earnhardt drives underneath him. Bonnet tries to get down to the bottom of the racetrack. Earnhardt is there. They collide. He's still trying to get back. Richmond comes along. They collide. And back up the racetrack he goes. And a lap later, Kyle Petty did the same thing.
Everybody may be a lap down, Benny, but I'll tell you, every one of these guys are treating each lap like it's the last one. Earnhardt is not setting back at all. He wanted to get back out in front. He wanted to maintain the advantage. He's not only trying to beat these guys, but trying to screw them down deeply into the ground.
Well, he's trying to dominate, just like Bill Elliott has been dominating these fellas. But look, Tim Richmond is hanging in there. He's not going anyplace. He's a couple of car lengths back and hanging real tough.
You know, I was thinking during that rain delay, it was almost like deja vu. 2 years ago in 1983, a race here was stopped after 419 laps because of rain. Earnhardt and Waltrip went at it for that one, and Waltrip beat Earnhardt out of the pits late in the race and won it.
That's exactly right. Darrell had the better car that night. I had forgotten about that, but you're right. Earnhardt won the race in a rain delay.
Kyle Petty gets out of control coming off of turn number 4, touches the outside wall. Apparently back up to speed. He moves up on the banking in turn 1 and 2. There is the leader, Earnhardt. Second place car, remember, 1 lap down, Richmond. And Richmond now beginning to show that he has aspirations about getting that lap back. We mentioned about Kyle touching the wall coming out of turn number 4. I think we're going to be able to show it to you.
Trouble up in turn 2. Bobby Allison goes around.
Comes down, almost runs into Rusty Wallace. Kyle Petty is sideways on the racetrack. Harry Gant was into smoke, but nobody was involved. But Bobby Allison makes severe contact with the outside retaining wall. You can see the rear of the race car. And Kyle, who had a breathtaking moment about 2 laps ago, has another one coming out of turn number 2. Bobby Allison, after a strong performance tonight, Bobby, who qualified only 16th fastest. He was the fastest of the drivers who didn't make top 15 the first night. He moved all the way up from deep in the pack to 3rd or 4th tonight, but it ended prematurely.
Yes, we saw the right rear tire turning just a moment ago. Bobby Allison was trying to get going. The frame has bent so badly on that car that the right rear tire is off the ground.
Bobby was running in 7th position, 2 laps down, but all the leaders take a chance to come in, including Earnhardt. I think he's putting a lot at risk. He's giving everybody a chance to make their lap up. Waltrip and Richmond are getting out in front of Earnhardt. He's giving them their lap back.
Everybody gets out in front of him.
This is an entirely new race. Suddenly, like lightning, Dale Earnhardt gets beat out of the pit by at least 2 drivers, and Waltrip and Richmond have a chance. Is Bonnet also in that group?
Yes, Bonnet is right in front of him. Bobby Allison is out of the car. He's talking to him. He's talking to him kind of animated.
Now, Benny, what's the call on this? Now, Earnhardt is the leader of this race. Does that mean that because those 3 guys we just talked about are on the lead lap, that they're going to be waved by the pace car, go around to the back of the pack? What's the call?
No. They're simply, they have a half mile to go to make up.
But they do have a chance now. Waltrip, Richmond, and Bonnet out of the pits before Earnhardt. So it looked like just a couple laps ago before this yellow flag for the Bobby Allison Kyle Petty incident that Earnhardt was going to have clear sailing on this, but it's not to be. There's the tail end of this. On the outside is Bobby, on the inside is Kyle.
Yes, Kyle Petty. Bobby Allison does not make contact with anything on the outside, but he backs off the brakes to get out of the way. And Rusty Wallace, and he backs the car in the inside guardrail and really made some serious contact with that inside
High Bank
guardrail.
Racetrack. Had that happened at Richmond, he probably would have got away from that unscathed. Here's another angle on what happened, and we pick it up on the end of it. There you see Rusty taking evasive action, and the impact, bang! And you can see that car fold up as Allison hits it at only maybe 40 or 50 miles an hour, but it really takes its toll.
Well, he hit it dead on at 40, 50 miles an hour, and that wall wasn't going anywhere.
You know, the wall has been hit so many times in automobile racing, and it wins every single time. 436 laps are now complete, so the end of this race is coming none too fast for Dale Earnhardt. He's been dominant, but can he hold on? Remember, the first 3 cars are now on the lead lap, but they do not run first in this race. A little bit of almost drama, Benny, during that caution flag lap. Earnhardt tried to sneak in front of Bonnet or Richmond or Waltrip or all 3, and they would have nothing to do with it. Richmond actually at one point scooted ahead of the leader, Darrell Waltrip, but he was not so much trying to get at Waltrip as he was Dale Earnhardt.
Right now, those 3 cars, they're all in front of Dale Earnhardt with a caution to come out. Right now, they would make the lap up and have an opportunity to win the race, not finish 2nd, 3rd, and 4th.
Now, Benny, if this were a big racetrack, they'd hook up and try and draft and get away from Dale. But what do you think? Will they stay in line, still run 1, 2, 3 and try to pull away from Dale, or are they going to start jousting among themselves?
They're going to start jousting among themselves. If Tim Richmond can get by Darrell Waltrip, he's going to do that, because that is for a spot. That's for possibly for 2nd place in this race.
Okay, Darrell Waltrip runs 2nd in the race. Tim Richmond runs 3rd in the race. Neil Bonnet runs 4th. The leader is Dale Earnhardt. He is about a half a mile, and there's a spin in turn 2. 3, 4 cars involved. Kyle Petty again. Looks like the number 90 car of Kenny Schrader, Clark Dwyer. Here's the caution flag. We have a brand new race. 4 cars now on the lead lap, and they are going to be nose to tail.
Oh, my goodness, my goodness, my goodness. But Earnhardt's car was not working that time. You know, they pitted. Look, Earnhardt's not keeping up.
Well, of course,
I don't know if
Earnhardt
he has a problem or what it is, but he's not keeping up.
He's coming in. I think he doesn't like the tires he just got, Benny, so he's going to pit. Now, he has pitted. Waltrip has pitted. Richmond has pitted. Richmond is out of the pit. Now, Waltrip has got to get out before Earnhardt to save that lap. What's going on?
Richmond didn't stop. He came in the pits but did not stop. I don't know what the forward story is.
Well, Richmond continues on the racetrack. Earnhardt is in the pits. Here comes Richmond around. Is Richmond passing now the number 3 car, the 12 car of Neil Bonnet pits? Richmond, I believe, must have taken the lead, Benny. I think that Tim Richmond is the new leader. Now, Bonnet is pitted. He'll have an opportunity to move right up behind Earnhardt and Richmond. But what a change of events. A big headache for scoring.
Tim Richmond went down pit road. He had to go down pit road, and he's made up a lap.
Well, maybe we can find out some more details on this, Benny. See if you can raise Tim on the radio.
Well, they're black flagging somebody.
Looks like Eddie Burchwell that's coming out for it does not affect the leaders.
Tim Richmond, this is Benny Parsons up in ESPN. Do you read?
Roger, Benny, go ahead.
Did you go down pit road, or how did you get such a lead?
We went to pit. We seen Darrell going ahead and pit. And just as I started turn on pit road, my guys, Barry Dawson, told me to stay up, and we were already committed, so we just went on by the pits.
10-4. Did you make up a lap on the field then?
Benny, say that again, please.
Did you make up a lap on the 3 car, or are you just in the lead right now?
No, we are, I think, right now running second behind Darrell. All 3, the 2, the 11, 12, and the 27, I think we all made up on that.
Okay, Tim, we're going to try to get this thing sorted out. We'll get back with you.
Roger.
Well, Benny, I can't second-guess scoring because that's not my primary job right now, but I would kind of agree. I think Richmond has the lead.
Well, I tell you what, here's what caused the caution flag. Kyle Petty in the 7-11 car.
He goes into turn number 1. Remember, he just came out of an incident a couple laps ago, left rear. Something breaks in the
left rear. He spins the car right in front of Kenny Schrader, and Kenny has no place to go except in the outside guardrail and against Kyle Petty.
Goes Dave Marcus going by. The number 49 car of Dwyer has also, or rather, Trevor Boy spins and gets bumped. Phil is back out on the racetrack after a very long night in the pits. He just evaded that situation. Well, we think we've got this all sorted out. About 50 laps to go. Officially, 452 laps have been completed. Remember, this is a 500-lap race. This is going to be a shootout yet. Have caution here at the Bristol International Raceway. This is Larry Newber, and joining me, as he has so many times the last couple of years, former Grand National champion Benny Parsons, and as always, Jack Arute down in the pits. We've been slowed because of a minor incident. There have been just a slew of caution flags tonight. I think we may have set a brand new track record. We are now up to 13 caution flags, and yes, that breaks the track record for the all-time greatest number of caution flags in a race here at Bristol. It was set, matter of fact, just this spring when we got 12 of them down. Now, what we do know at this point is that Dale Earnhardt is the leader. Don't we, Benny?
Well, I don't know. They just have moved Tim Richmond in front of Dale Earnhardt and behind Darrell Waltrip. I don't know. I think that they're saying that he is in the tail end of the lead lap.
Tail end of the lead lap. That's what I think. Now, Richmond is darting down to the inside. He's pulling up alongside of the pace car. Now he's going to go around the track. He has been radioed that he is allowed to go back to the tail of the field. Now, we believe, and this is unofficial, that means that Tim is being put at the tail of the lead lap. But it does put him at the tail of the lead lap and about probably 10 cars behind the leader, Dale Earnhardt.
But on the restart, he will be able, since he is in the lead lap, he'll be able to move close up right behind the 12 car of Neil Bonnet.
Now, trying to summarize this call for you again, what happened? Tim Richmond ducked through the pits during the last caution flag without catching up with the pace car first, and in effect, because he never stopped, he gained a whole lap on the rest of the field. But by ducking into the pits before being picked up by the pace car, that was illegal. He got a stop and go penalty, so he ends up not a lap ahead of the field, but at the tail of the lead lap, right?
I don't know.
Okay.
Beats me. I thought I knew something about this sport, but evidently I... Well, you know, it happens so fast. NASCAR thinks they have it right because...
I think we're getting ready to go here.
They're giving him one lap to go.
And Richmond has been placed in front of Dale Earnhardt now. Are they saying he is the leader now? Now we are back to where we were about 5 or 6 caution flag laps ago, and they're saying Richmond is the leader with Earnhardt second. Right behind him, Bonnet in third, and Darrell Waltrip at the head of the pack, the distance of 1 lap behind, but on the lead lap.
Okay, if that's what they say, that's what we will do.
458 laps have been completed, and this race has an entirely different complexion. Remember, Tim Richmond did not pit. He has, let's call them old tires. Everybody else has new.
Yes, we're going to see exactly what happens right there.
Green flag, needless to say. Richmond leads this race like lightning. Dale Earnhardt bottoms out with a full load of fuel going around turn number 2. Bonnet is third. Ricky Rudd is underneath them in that white bottom, red top car. And Richmond, despite not having new tires, is pulling away, at least for the time being.
Earnhardt the last time did not handle very well, and again, he is not handling right now like he was earlier in the race. I don't know if in a few laps the car is going to come back or not, but he is just not handling. As a matter of fact, Bonnet is alongside him going in turn 1.
And we are getting to the point in this race where it's going to be incredibly dramatic, like Quicksilver. It happens very quickly. Only 40 laps to go.
And Bonnet is right on the back bumper of Earnhardt. The dominance that Earnhardt has shown all night, it just simply went away, and I can't explain why.
Schrader slows. We didn't, I know, see that, but it was very dramatic. Schrader slowed down suddenly right in front of Waltrip. Now they are second and third place, according to NASCAR. Dale Earnhardt, Neil Bonnet. That's Bill Elliott right behind, but Elliott is at least 1 lap down. 1 lap down in 5th position, as a matter of fact.
Now it looks like that Earnhardt, whatever his problem was, has went away, and he's just simply driving away from. But look, the 27 car is right on the back bumper of Waltrip, and Earnhardt, here he comes.
Now the leader of this race, at least officially, unofficially at this point, remember, is Tim Richmond. Richmond leads this race. He's trying to get around Darrell Waltrip. Waltrip is on the same lap with him and Dale Earnhardt, but he's the distance of the racetrack behind. Waltrip runs in 4th place right now. Richmond leads this race. 464 laps are down.
I don't know what could have possibly happened to Earnhardt just those first few laps, but he looked like the car just did not handle. And Bonnet, something looks like has happened to his car, because Bill Elliott's on the outside of Neil Bonnet to challenge for that spot.
Tim Richmond driving for a team that really had outside hopes at the beginning of this year of maybe challenging for the championship. Certainly they thought they would win 2, 3, maybe 4 times this year. They have not won yet in 1985. They won once in 1984. Richmond desperately wants to win. Maybe in that category, Richmond is more desperate than Dale Earnhardt, who's already won twice this year.
And there's only 33 laps to go. 33, so Richmond is looking good right now. Earnhardt is going to have to get the thing going if he's to win. And let's don't forget about Darrell Waltrip. He's staying in front of these 2 cars, so that means he has a good race car. If the caution were to come out one more time, he now can go back, hopefully get on the tail end of the lead lap.
One of the appeals of racing, you just never know. And to quote Yogi Berra, I've said it before, but it's really true. It's never over till it's over. This is like deja vu, Benny. We were talking earlier about that race at Richmond, where Ricky Rudd dominated. Richmond lollygagged in 5th, 6th, or 7th position late in the race. A late pit stop. They got a perfect set of tires, and he went away and won the race easily.
That was at North Wilkesboro a couple of years ago, right?
Darrell Waltrip continues to orbit around the high banks on the same lap with the leaders. They can't get around him. Waltrip is in 4th position. There are the leaders. Tim Richmond, car number 27. Dale Earnhardt in car number 23.
And Earnhardt is, I don't know, I want to say he's closing, but yet there still is a gap there. And until he gets on the back bumper of the 27 car, Tim Richmond, I am not going to say too much.
Tim Richmond started the race today in 2nd position. He timed in at 113.3 miles per hour. His best finish so far in 1985 has been a 3rd at the Darlington 500 back in the early part of the season. That was the 6th race of the year. He's had a 4th at Michigan, and he's had about 3 or 4 other top 10 finishes. Now we'll see just how well Tim Richmond is doing. That 113-mile-per-hour qualifying speed, by the way, is about 17 seconds flat. Let's see how close he is to that. Now, you expect to slow down, certainly during the running of the race. Benny, what would you expect to see if he's out front running easily?
Well, I would think that around 18 seconds flat would be a good lap. Maybe even in the 17s with the tires as fresh as they are right now.
Remember that Richmond does not have fresh tires. Earnhardt does, but you called it. You said 18 seconds, and that's just about right. 17.9 seconds, an average speed of 107 miles an hour, about what we expect. You predicted it at this stage of the race. 25 laps to go. Earnhardt's, again, I want to say gaining, but yet he's not on the back bumper yet. Boy, it's got to be frustrating to be so close to see the back tires, the back bumper, see that red old Milwaukee car, and sit back there, drive your heart out, anticipate one slight mistake that would give you the edge to move in, and watch Richmond just click off the laps, turn after turn after turn, not making a major mistake, and no matter how much you keep your momentum up, you just can't get over the top of the hill. Just not enough to catch up.
Just not enough. As you know, you keep thinking that Earnhardt's going to pass him, but he's got to catch him first, and he hasn't been able to do that.
Tim Richmond has never won at this racetrack. Dale Earnhardt, when he won that race earlier this year, was only the first time, correction, make that the third time he has won at Bristol. Earnhardt 6 times finished in the top 10, 6 times finished in the top 5, 10 times in the top 10. Earnhardt is the 4th ranking driver of all time at this racetrack. And he's moved in a little bit, Benny.
Yes, he's a half a car length behind right now. I think he's caught him. I want to call him he's caught. I want to call him caught right now. Now then, can he get by? That's the next thing.
He's coming on like a house of fire now. The last couple laps, he's touched him.
Yes.
As if Tim didn't know he was there.
20 laps to go. Only 20 laps to go.
And again, we repeat, only 20 because things just flash by here at the Bristol International Raceway. 20 laps is like 2 laps on a major racetrack.
Yes. Well, that's right. At Charlotte, they run a lap of 36 seconds. Here, they run a lap in 18 seconds.
A study in driving techniques. Let's concentrate now as Tim Richmond and Dale Earnhardt. It's between the two of them. Nobody else is in it for the win. Less than 20 laps to go. Richmond has to think, has to hit every lap perfect. You see how close Earnhardt is. He smokes the tires going in. Right on Tim Richmond's tail.
What Tim Richmond's got to do right now, he just simply, Earnhardt touched him and he went up the hill. They get together. Richmond almost spins the car coming off turn 4.
Dale Earnhardt's strong arm tactics on Tim Richmond moved underneath. As the two touch, they just bowl together coming around turn 3 and 4. And the one top customer absolutely lives up to his name.
Yes. He just touched him going in the turn, and Richmond went up the racetrack just enough that Earnhardt moved underneath him, and right by him he went.
Now, Richmond's big chance is lap traffic. That will become a factor during the next 15 laps. They are approaching Ronnie Thomas, although Earnhardt has about a 3, 4, 5 car length advantage over Richmond. He goes to the high side of Thomas. There you see him going around Dave Marcus in the blue number 71. To the high side of Kyle Petty. He gets through that small group of people without losing too much ground. Richmond, as you can see, made up maybe a car length.
Well, that's right, because Earnhardt had to pass Kyle up high. Richmond got to stay on the bottom of the racetrack, and look, Richmond's right on his back bumper.
Benny, what do you think will happen if Tim Richmond gets close enough now? Will he try to use the same strong arm tactics on Earnhardt as Earnhardt used on him?
If he can get there, but I don't know if he can catch him or not.
Remember that Neil Bonnet is 3rd in this race. He's a straightaway behind, so while this is going on, Bonnet maybe has an outside chance.
He does have an outside chance because, you know, these two guys, both of them want to win as badly as anyone on the racetrack. And to what extreme will they go to win? We'll find out. 13 laps to go. 12 and a half, actually.
Dale Earnhardt, the Wrangler jeans, number 3. Tim Richmond, the old Milwaukee Pontiac, number 27. There is Darrell Waltrip, who is on the lead lap, running ahead of Earnhardt and Richmond. You can see it's only by about 1 football field. Not enough to challenge for the lead, not enough to challenge for the win. It's 4th place. The way Dale's car has been performing right after caution flags, that's another thing that Earnhardt does not want. It seems like he has a tremendous disadvantage when the green flag falls after a caution.
There's Darrell Waltrip. There's the 11 car. He is gaining on Earnhardt and on the 27 car of Tim Richmond. But
490 laps complete. Busch stays out there. Elliott is still on the racetrack. Thomas, we talked about. Ricky Rudd, Harry Gant, Ronnie Bouchard is still out. Dave Marcus, Clark Dwyer, Richard Petty, Buddy Baker, Trevor Boyce, Bill Parsons is back. Jeff Bodine in relief of Lake Speed. Joe Rutten is back to the racetrack. Rusty Wallace has survived to this point. Buddy Arrington and Darrell Waltrip, and of course, those two guys. 492 laps are now complete. 8 laps to go. Richmond is beginning to let it all hang out. He played roughhouse going around the outside of Buddy Arrington that time, trying to get maybe just a little bit more boost from what draft there is on a half-mile racetrack. But Earnhardt is not letting go.
no, Richmond actually got a tough break on the outside of Buddy Arrington a while ago. He lost another car length, and right now he needs to gain car lengths, not lose them.
Coming out of turn number 2 that time, Earnhardt showed some smoke from the right rear tire. I can see the car is pointing a little bit to the inside as he comes out of turn number 4. Earnhardt, I guarantee, is driving for all he is worth, and Richmond can see it better than anybody at the racetrack. 494 laps. It's like sand slipping through an hourglass. Smaller amount with each passing moment, with each passing lap. Time continues to run out for Tim Richmond. 5 laps to go. Can he do it? They are moving in a little bit on Darrell Waltrip. If they catch Waltrip, it will really be a mess.
Richmond got the car a little bit sideways coming off turn 2. He is pushing that car for every inch that it's worth. Oh, he gets it sideways off turn 4. He's trying so hard to catch Earnhardt.
Richmond is on the radio, as is Dale Earnhardt to their crew. They're telling them exactly where they are. Both drivers know that this time by we complete lap number 497. On balance, if you had to pick somebody on the basis of merit in this race so far, Earnhardt deserves to win. But Richmond has really come on strong in the last quarter of this race.
Yes, he has, and I just can't believe how hard he's driving. But he's driving too hard right now. He's losing ground.
He really is. Now, all of a sudden, it's almost a comfortable lead for Dale Earnhardt. 498 grains of sand go through the hourglass. Just 2 more to go, and Earnhardt looks like he may have a walk in the park, as much as you can have a walk in the park at Bristol for the last lap and a half. White flag will be coming up this time around. Harold Kinder points at Dale Earnhardt, waves the white flag. Earnhardt acknowledges. He goes into turn number 1. He is following Darrell Waltrip. Dave Marcus is between Dale Earnhardt and Tim Richmond. Through turn number 3, turn number 4. Here comes Dale Earnhardt. He will sweep both races at the Bristol International Speedway in 1985. Dale Earnhardt. And here comes Bill Elliott with a 5th place finish, and that should be good enough to really cement a hold on the points lead.
Well, Darrell Waltrip finished 4th, so he gained 5 points on Bill Elliott tonight.
But Dale Earnhardt really showed us all night long that not only was he the superior car in qualifying last night, the superior car when this race started, he overcame a number of obstacles during the running of the race, and in the last quarter of this race, he certainly proved that he was not going to lie down and win this race. He charged from lap 1 to lap number 500. Dale Earnhardt has won again.
We're here in Victory Lane with the winner of the Busch 500, Dale Earnhardt. Congratulations.
Thank you, Jackie. I'd like to thank Wrangler and Mr. Goodrich, our General Motors parts sponsors, and you know, all the guys on the race team. They did a heck of a job. I'd like to say hi to my boys and girls at home, and the kids. All my family stayed home. One of our crew members, Will Lynn, has got a new baby. I'd like to say hi to Sandy. And
listen, I want to ask you one quick question. A lot of slamming and bamming tonight. It looked like you really had to work to win this one.
Well, you know, with the lap ahead of the field there, and it's always aggressive up here at Bristol, and they got the lap back, unfortunately, on a caution, and I had to race Richmond there for the win, but he was awful tough. You know, we had to race close to get by him, but, you know, it was a good race, and, you know, I feel like everybody ran a good race all day long. The car ran good, and, you know, I hadn't got much more to say, but the car did just a great job, and the crew did a great job. You know, thank the good Lord, it was a safe race.
Well, congratulations to you, Dale. 2 in a row here in the spring and in the summer for Dale Earnhardt.